we've been waiting a long time for this. The car's been put on hold for a little bit. We've done some bits and pieces which we'll get into a little bit later. But finally tonight we've got the motor back. Just picked it up from the depot and we're about to start getting the car ready and get the engine in hopefully tonight or over the weekend at least. So you can just see the old girl in the back there. She's ready to go. We've had the wiring moved and some other little mod cons done while we're waiting. But we're going to clean it up. We're going to put it on the hoist, move Frosty's nugget across, and we're going to get into sliding her back in with a new heartbeat. So one of the things we got redone while we had it all apart was the ceramic coating on the turbo. This, we've changed the turbo. This has got the Pro Boost SXC488. Grant built this for us. So the old turbo had the ceramic coating on it. We never got around to putting this on it. So while it's apart, we've sent it away to CIC down at Welshpool. They've done all the ceramic coating. So you can see here, inside and out. So it's got two coats on the outside, one on the inside. And then just because we've got it powder coated, nice and black, so don't mind him in the background. So now we'll just put the front housing on the rear housing, bolt it all up, and then we'll get ready to put it on the motor and assemble it. Hopefully assemble it on the motor, slide it all in together. The moment we've been waiting for, the unveiling. Unveiling, the unveiling.
And cut.
And action. Sorry, I should have put it in time lapse if I'd known Brad was going to be this fucking slow to undo it.
Be careful, I don't scratch the paintwork.
Ooh. Custom cam, TPS. Just be careful not to cut through the motor, into the motor, just split the blocks.
Oh.
Yeah, they're taped. That's a job for you, Brad. It's a bit fancy. So, differences on this, we've still got the stock heads. I mean, we've got the same heads, I should say. But we've gone with a two-piece Aeroflow timing cover. So that allows us to get into the cam and inspect if we need to, because I've had the cam come loose twice on the last motor. So rather than having to pull the harmonic balance and all that off to get to it, and obviously it's black and shiny. Powder coated, they're all stock. But yeah, basically brand new bottom end. Ls3 stock block. Kelly's crank. Kelly's ultra I-beams for the rods. And CP pistons. It's running about 9.5 to 1 comp, so we're going a little bit higher on the compression, and that's going to get the big old turbo to come on a bit quicker. And then obviously we'll just run a bit less boost through it. So let's get this thing off the cradle and into that. Okay, so big thanks to Frosty. We got the motor all ready to assemble, and he's dropped it in for us last night. So it's just sitting in here ready to connect everything up. We just got to do the injectors, bit of wiring, and a few little things you'll see from here that have changed. This, which is the support for the new splitter, which I'll show you a bit later. Obviously this is all part of that as well. And we're going to mount a new cooler over here. It's going to be larger. The new sump, we've gone with Aeroflow sump. You can just see that in there. So that line's all done up. Probably put a heat shield of some sort in here or reroute that a bit better. But baffled sump, and we're going to have a remote oil filter so it's easier to get to. And then obviously we're going to put the accumulator on it because we want to make sure that that we have no oiling issues. We think that might be part of the reason for the last motor kicking the bucket. So still a little bit of work to do, but we're going to get into it today. I'll get the radiator, intercooler, all the plumbing done, the cold side of the plumbing of the turbo done, and then we'll start working on that, and then hopefully this afternoon we'll be dropping in the transmission, and we'll get onto that very soon. Started plumbing some things up, got the radiator back on, bits and pieces done. I'll just show you underneath. So we've got the aeroflow sump there, just got to get a dipstick for that, and we've got so much more clearance now. This is going to be a remote oil filter, and we'll tee off for we'll put that somewhere up here, I guess. So yeah, MPC clutch is on, all torqued up, bell housing's on. You know, we just had so much more room. You can see everything up there. It's just way easier now. And now comes time for the transmission. Now, speaking of the transmission, this is the old transmission, the stock T56, and you know what? It did all right. It took a bit of punishment. It didn't like going into fifth, but you know, it was a slow shifting box, and it was only a matter of time before something bad was about to happen. So the news that we're excited to tell you is we've got a little surprise, and that's your clue. This little box here is a 6-gear sequential shifting PPG gearbox, which is not straight cut gears, they're helical cut, so it shouldn't be noisy, but we'll definitely be able to hear it. But this is going to transform the car completely, so looking forward to get it in. So we're going to pull it out of the crate now. I'm going to throw it over there. We finally got it all together. Just going to bleed it up and start it up basically. So we're just going to crank it over. We'll pull the relays out of the fuel pump, make sure there's oil pressure there. We'll get the coolant system bled up, and then it's good to go to Mike to get checked out on the dyno. So looks pretty similar to last time, but we've got a few little additions, just some cosmetic upgrades. We've ceramic coated this. We've left the manifolds without wrap on them because they cracked last time, we think due to the wrap. And just clean the wiring out. There's a few wires here which we'll just make sure it starts all good, and then we'll tidy them up. Other than that, she's looking pretty good. Made a few adjustments. We've got a different thermostat housing there, so that's a bit cleaner. And yeah, much neater. Moved the fuel lines at the back. I don't know if you can see that, but tidied them up. Just got a grommet to put in there, and that's good. So we'll get this started for you, and then we'll get on the dyno soon. Easier than last time. The cam's a bit milder, which is what we wanted. Everything looks like it's operating good, so we're just going to bleed that coolant up now. And man, I've waited like 3 months for this. Far out. What a journey you're getting off the road. Obviously a shit time to have that engine screw up on us. Okay, so we've run into a bit of a problem where we're bleeding it up, and we saw a puddle of oil on the floor. So we thought obviously there's an oil fitting or something not done, but unfortunately we've run into a bit more of an issue. And you can see in here we've got oil through here, so we thought one of these fittings, this is all new setup, was leaking. There's fluid all over the back of the flywheel, and when we started up it's just absolutely pissing oil at the back of the engine. So I think it's something to do with the rear main or the rear plate. So we've got the gearbox disconnected, tail shaft's out, and we're going to pull it apart and see what's going on. Luckily we've made a few modifications to make everything a little easier for us. Not that we anticipated this event, but we've pulled the gearbox off. But clearly see pissing out oil here around this seal, but it's coming from the bottom, and the reason is because all these bolts aren't even fucking tight, which is really disappointing to get a motor built and find this shit. Something that I should have and could have easily checked. Not that I should have to, but there was loose bolts on the sump which we had to pull off anyway, and I wish I did get those checked while we're there. But here's what it is. We'll torque it up, I'll pull this off and just check inside while I'm here, and then we'll put it back on. We'll run the motor like this, make sure it doesn't leak, and then we'll put it all back together. Obviously, clutch station actually haven't got too much oil on it, but we'll have to re-clean everything again and put it back together. And look, it's cost us a bit of oil and about 2 hours out of our life, but yeah, we'll get to it and then double check everything, bleed it up again, and then we'll be off to the dyno. V8 supercar, V8 supercar. Coincidence? I don't think so. Yeah. All right, guys. Finally comes the time we get to chuck it on the dyno. So we skipped a few steps during the filming, but that's because we've been very busy putting it all back together. Things, as you can see on the back of the trailer, ready to go. We're going to go see Mike, and we're just going to tidy up the tune. We're going to hook up the strain gauge, wire the PVG in, and we're going to set that up, set up boost by gear hopefully, but mainly just make sure the engine's running healthy, bed it in, and rip some gears. Let's go.